Hi, I'm Bran, and I love Hallmark Christmas movies.
I'm Brian. I like Hallmark Christmas movies.
And I'm Doug Jones, and I love Hallmark Christmas movies.
And this is the Deck the Hallmark podcast.
Deck the Hallmark, it's his podcast. Brandon and friends host his podcast. We hope you like this jolly podcast.
Well, hello, everybody. Hopefully you're doing well. Hopefully you're doing better than Dan. Dan is. Do you remember when Dan was out a couple weeks ago? He's back out now.
He just can't used up his time
He can't
off.
kick it. He can't kick
It's
it.
not the time.
But I think we are in good hands because filling in as third chair, a little less grumpy, is Doug Jones. Hi, Doug.
Well, hi, yeah, a little less grumpy. Yeah. So,
The antithesis of Dan. It's Doug Jones.
Thanks for having me back. This has become a Christmas tradition for me that I just long for. So thank you.
The fact that you agree to come on every year, it just makes my year. Every single time you say yes, you could say no, and I'd be like, I get it. Listen, I'm over me too. So the fact that you keep coming back means the world. I gotta know. This year's been an interesting year for actors and with the strike and all that stuff. What have you been up to this year? Any big fun Doug Jones updates?
Right. Well, the actors strike took us out for about 5.5 months. But the big news for me, Star Trek Discovery, our final season number 5 will be airing on Paramount Plus in April 2024. And I'm still a recurring guest on What We Do in the Shadows as the vampire Baronefanas, and they have been renewed for season 6. That's going to be going into production soon, and they have asked me back for a couple more episodes of that. So very excited about all that.
Fantastic. I love that. When I reached out to you to come on, I said, you can have your pick of the litter here. You can do whatever you want to. You picked the Hallmark Movies Now movie, Ice Palace Romance. What was it about this title that stuck out to you and you said, give me the Ice Palace?
Right. It's well, I have a childhood nostalgic love for ice skating. That might be where it starts.
Okay.
And so when we get to all the feels, I'll explain about my favorite Christmas present ever.
Ooh.
It involves ice skating.
Does it involve a hairdryer?
And
A hair dryer, making those ice skates work a little bit better?
It was a hair dryer, yeah. And I actually I haven't subscribed to the Hallmark Movies Now yet, and I wanted to see what they so this was great to have a look at what they're doing over there.
There you go. Fair enough. Well, let's get to it, Brian.
Yeah,
Ice Palace Romance originally dropped on the HM Now app on December 14th, 2023, and it went a little something like this. Lori Marshall is a newscaster. She is trying to do a story on a dance studio, but the woman who runs the studio, she doesn't want it. But after some convincing, she agrees. She's just that good. She applies for promotion, and her boss tells her that she's got to do something really special. You got to do a tight 13 minutes on the Ice Palace. That is a line that she says. Lori responds by saying, I can't go there. I don't do ice. Turns out she grew up a competitive skater and she has quite some experience with the Ice Palace, but she fell and hurt herself in the Olympic qualifier, and so she quit and has not been back on the ice since. She has no desire to go back to the palace and relive all of those memories, but her friends encourage her to get back out there. At the very least, you could do the story and hopefully you get that promotion. To make matters worse, though, her sister tells her that she just won a trip to Mexico for Christmas. Lori is not happy. She likes spending Christmas in the cold and doing Christmas traditions. So she's going to pass on that, and she's just going to go do this story. So the next day, she tells her boss she's willing to give it a shot, and her boss says, great. She hired a local camera operator. Go get him, cowboy. I don't know. She meets the dad and his daughter at the train station. They talk about skates and stuff. They're both going to the same town, weirdly enough, if you can believe it. She gets into town and immediately meets that camera operator, and they're fun. They're having a good time together, and they go to get some hot toddies, because you got it. Hot toddy. She goes to check out the ice and sees that hot dad from the train station. He comes over and says that his name is Mark. They spend some time talking about wings. Honestly, more time talking about wings than I expected. I'm not upset about it. Now I want wings. She goes to get dinner and bumps into Mark again. Turns out Mark runs the Ice Palace. It's been in his family forever. And he tells her that despite what people think, the Ice Palace ain't going anywhere. We meet Chad. He wants to destroy the hopes and dreams of Mark and destroy the palace. Wants to build a development. Can you believe that? A development.
Someone named Chad? No.
Mark believes that the Ice Palace is the beating heart of the town. It's where everyone goes to do Christmas, he says. But development will bring in shops and more people and more money. And so it's time for the Ice Palace to go away. That's what everybody thinks. Well, it's time for the Ice Palace Christmas tree lighting ceremony, and it is jam-packed with 10 of the town's best people. Late at night, Lori sneaks into the Ice Palace and gets back on the ice with her sparkly ice skates, and she still has it. Mark creeps on her from afar, and then also creeps on her from a close. After days of reporting on the potential closing of the Ice Palace and spending tons of time with Mark and giving his daughter tips about ice skating, her boss tells her that the story is missing a little something. She suggests that she spends more time with Mark and dig into what his story is. So she spends the evening hanging out, opening up to him about why she quit skating and how she still feels connected to this town. She finally gets back on the ice in front of other people, thanks to Mark going out on the ice with her. She starts spinning like crazy. The folks that are in the stands of the ice skating rinks, free skate period, they love it. They're cheering her on. Go you. Naturally, that leads to Lori and Mark having a sexy baking time. They didn't need it, but we did, so they do it. Get a room. The story publishes, and Lori wasn't aware that that it was going live that morning, didn't have time to give a heads up to Mark. Turns out the story makes it seem like everyone is pro-development, including her. She's really concerned about what Mark is going to think about the story, and spoiler alert, he does not like it. She tracks him down and explains that people are really ready to let the Ice Palace go. She's just reporting on the facts of the town. He believes that she was only getting close to him for the sake of the story. She decides to stick around for the daughter's skating performance, and then she's going to go leave. But before she leaves, Mark tells her that he's sorry for freaking out on her. He is still going to fight for the community, but he understands where she was coming from with the story. She's about to leave when she finds out that the development guy has not been on the up and up the entire time and actually doesn't have any land on the outskirts of town where he said he was going to build a new ice skating rink. He's a liar. So she wants to oust him in front of everybody, and where better than the Christmas Eve ball at the Ice Palace. At the same time, Mark is trying to find Lori to tell her how he feels. At the ball, Lori and the mayor show the town that the development fellow is the worst, and the town chases him off. Not with pitchforks, but I like to imagine there were pitchforks. The mayor apologizes to Mark and tells him that the lease is still up at midnight, so this is the last time we will do this. But Mark has some news too. Some investors that we most definitely knew about, they're coming in to save the rink. This is great news. Everybody dances the night away, and Mark and Lori kiss. Cut to 1 year later, they're still together, they're still kissing, and his daughter is still skating. And that, my friends, was Ice Palace Romance. Let's take a quick break. We'll come back. We will break this movie down with 4 segments with our friend Doug Jones here on Deck the Hallmark. Welcome back. We're talking Ice Palace Romance. Doug Jones is here. It is time for The hot take. It is where we share exactly how we felt about this movie. We do not hold back. Brian, I will start with you per tradition.
Sure.
What did you think of Ice Palace Romance?
Yeah, Ice Palace Romance. I feel like I should not have liked this as much as I did. I think that...
I mean, it's ice.
We're at the ring.
There's nothing you can do. Your hands are tied.
Really, and we spent... They said, I feel like they're putting this movie together. They're like, all right, we got an okay movie. There's going to be a crowd that will have no chance, no choice but to like this because we're at the rink 90% of the time, and that's what we're going to do. And I feel like Doug's on the same page here. I loved being at the ice rink the whole time. Actually, producer Erin, a former figure skater, champion herself. I don't know if she was a champion. I just threw that
Olympic qualifying
yes. Figure skater,
that's
champion.
My understanding
maybe.
Of her past.
This was coming off the heels of our Home Alone experience around Greenville, where we skated downtown on Ice on Main. I had a good time. And the movie it felt like it got more quirkier as it went on. It started off like whatever, very standard. We were at the ice. That's great. And then it got weirder and weirder, and it became more fun as it got closer to the end. The villain part, Chad's whole thing about like making a fake deed, it just worked. Like it fell right in line with what I kind of was expected how this to kind of wrap up. So I liked it more than I think I should have. I had a really good time. I like these two together, Marcus Rosner, Celeste Desjardins. I feel like they were great. I really like that pairing, and I had a good time watching this movie with them.
Dougie, what'd you think?
Well, hey, I overall loved it. It had all the Hallmark tropes I was hoping and wishing for. We had the two leads. Yes, Celeste and Marcus are beautiful to look at, both of them, and charming and really in the zone when they creating their characters. And I was also nice to see Marcus Rosner playing leads now, because if you remember, he started out in the Hallmark world as ex-boyfriend guy, boss guy, narcissistic this or preening that, and now he's been moved into leading guys, much like Christopher Russell did. He started the same way and now is leading movies. So Christopher Russell was on Star Trek Discovery with me for a few episodes, so we're buds. Okay. But anywho, also I loved we had the typical boss lady who was a bit too stern about an ice rink story. And one of my favorite quotes of hers was, the juicier, the better. Because we all know that small town ice rinks have some scandalous underbelly. Then we also had the narcissistic developer who was like all full of himself and had plans. And then, of course, the sassy office friend that had all the good one-liners and the expressive face. It was all there for me. But the actors, my favorite thing of this entire movie was supporting character Jen, the camera lady. She was I lived in the Midwest. I grew up in Indiana. So if this took place in a small town in Michigan, these are my people. And she is someone that I have known all my life in various forms. She was natural. She was funny, and she had that good sassy Midwestern sense of humor. So actress Shannon McDonough, I'm going to guess is how you pronounce her last name. I want to see more of her.
100%. With a movie like this that is pretty like standard Hallmark and can kind of get lost in the weeds, it really comes down to am I rooting for the two leads? And I was rooting for the two leads in this movie. We love Marcus around here, and there's not many people that can like make me believe some of the lines that he was saying quite like Marcus. Like Marcus does say that the Ice Palace is the heartbeat of the town. It's where everybody goes for Christmas. And I'm like, it is. Yeah. It is the heartbeat of the town. You're right. But when I write that line down, I'm like, man, that's a really dumb line. But Marcus sells it. And the end of this movie is insane. Like the developer's just lying about deeds and no one fact checked it. It was like, oh yeah, that's good. That's good for us.
It looks official.
Looks official to us. And then the investors coming out of nowhere to save the day.
Big Chicago investors.
So and then I'll talk about it in my way up, but an interesting use of the 1 year later card, but whatever. Overall, a fine movie. It's not going to be at the top of my list or at the bottom of my list. It's going to be right there in the middle. Pretty standard, but that's due in part to stellar performances by the leads. Sure. It's time for all the feels, where we talk about what in this movie gave us those Christmas feels. Brian?
Yeah, the Zoe's skating routine was great. And she's a real skater. She can really skate.
She was great.
And she was great. That Acacia.
She was like
handheld.
what? Like 12 maybe?
Probably 12, 13, something like that.
Really good.
So you get to see somebody basically at the peak of their game, the top of their game, perform. And
top of Erin's game. She was 12. She was crushing it.
And it felt like it was really skating, and it was great. Like it wasn't clips of, it was some of this, but it wasn't all clips of feet and face. So it was like you get to see
when the lead was skating, it was all feet.
It was a lot of feet.
When the girl was skating,
I did have a problem with her placement at the end of that competition. I feel like we need a hashtag justice for Zoe hashtag.
I was surprised to see her get third place too. I felt
please.
You could have had her do anything, and we said
yes.
Best we can do is third. I know we're not going to show anyone else.
Right.
Best we can do is
her dad owns the Ice Palace, so she is.
That's true. We're a little bit harder on her.
Yeah, maybe. But so that whole scene there of her skating, her performance was great, and the music to it was awesome too. And hopefully Doug will piggyback on some ice skating here.
Doug, you give me those ice skating feels.
Oh, I had all the ice skating feels. This is nostalgic for me. Do you know when I was a kid? Do you remember a show called Holiday on Ice? It traveled the country, and and every year it came through Indianapolis, Indiana, where I grew up, and I was mesmerized by Holiday on Ice and watching people glide across ice and do things on blades. I was like, what is this? What is this sorcery? And so my favorite Christmas present I ever longed for and got was out of the Sears catalog, which that was what my parents gave me, a budget and a catalog.
I love that.
And so I bookmarked the ice skates page, and I wanted figure skates because that's what I saw on Holiday on Ice. Which always throws me when no man in Hallmark movies skates with figure skates. They always have hockey skates on, probably because most of the actors are Canadians who have grown up playing hockey. Included this movie. Marcus also wore those hockey skates, but I wanted to be a figure skater, and I even had dreams. I had a crush on a girl named Cheryl in like 7th grade.
Shout out to Cheryl. She's definitely listening.
Well, I hope so. And she, and I would play a piece of music at home when I was going to bed, or I would listen to the radio. And if a sappy love song came on, I would put an ice skating routine in my head with her and me, with a spotlight on us, and I black outfits with a little bit of sequins on them,
just a little bit,
right? I had the whole thing planned out. So running home every day after school to look in the Sears catalog and see and just gaze at those ice skates. I did that for about a month before Christmas, and when they showed up, it was like, yes! So every Tuesday, Mom took us to the public ice skating rink, and after school, they became a part of my life. So that was this movie was nostalgia in that way, especially watching that precious 12, 13-year-old girl find her ice skating legs, and beautifully played by Acacia. I want to say Handvelt. And she was very charming and adorable. So that kind of brought all that back. I also like the reclaiming element of this movie. If there's a place or a time or an event that you've been dragging around with bad, negative memories, I think it's healthy to go back to that place and reclaim it with happy, positive, something new. You can own yourself again. I've done that in my own life before, and I have a friend who something bad happened to her in a public park as a child. She went back as an adult and reclaimed it and took her power back. So I was happy to see the Laura character go back to where and reclaim this and reinvent herself in the process as not a performer so much, but as a coach for the next generation. All
fantastic.
That is deep.
My feels is Doug Jones. Just always gives me the feels.
Wow.
I will say one other feel I had is in these movies we talk over the years we've seen some atrocious empty cups. We've seen some a bad case of having the same bite of food on your fork for a long time and never actually taking a bite. In this movie, Marcus Rosner has in his hand what he claims is the perfect pretzel. Looking at it, I have my doubts.
Yep.
But this guy takes a chomp out of this pretzel. He doesn't just take a little nibble. He takes a big bite of the pretzel. And that's how you do it, folks. I don't know how many bites of pretzel he had to do that day because he decided I'm going to actually take the bite. But he did it. And I am going to assume it tasted as bad as it looked.
Yeah.
So thank you, Marcus, for your service and actually taking a bite of a pretzel. That's how you do it right there.
Great feels,
Oh man, set food can't be good, right, Doug?
Well, the problem is continuity. When you are doing take after take, angle after angle, at the same dinner table, the same cafe, the same coffee shop, you're going to, someone has to reset, refill glasses, reposition the food on the plate if there's something missing now. So it's just easier and faster to talk with an empty fork in your hand and then kind of like tap yourself with a napkin and get up and leave. You know what I
Marcus
mean?
said, no, thank you. I need somebody off screen that has a new, fresh pretzel for me, and we're going to do it every single scene. So kudos to you, Marcus. Let's take a quick break. We'll come back with the Wait What's and the What the Hallmarks here on Deck the Hallmark. Welcome back, everybody. We're talking about the Ice Palace romance. Doug Jones is here. Dan is not. It's a great day.
He's protesting.
He's protesting the Ice Palace. Let's get to the Wait What.
Yeah.
This is where we talk about when this movie made us go wait what, and I'll start with you, Brian. Brian, anything stick out?
A couple of things. The boss wanting a tight 13 on losing the Ice Palace.
13 minutes?
There's nothing tight. Maybe it's like her joke. Maybe she always says that. I need a tight 25 on this. I need a tight 7. Like, maybe that's her saying, but a tight 13 is not tight. So,
right. And if the whole story is just like the town is pro-development, like, is it just 13 minutes of people just being like, yeah,
exactly, confirming it.
We don't like it, but we like the development. So what can you do?
Right.
Like, what's 13 minutes of that?
That seems like a Midwestern thing. Like, what can you do?
What can you
That's
do?
what it's gonna be. We'll take it.
13 minutes of that.
So the fitness class that he talks about, I think he was in Chicago originally to pitch investors for this idea, and that's the one tiny little link to the Chicago investors near the end. But he actually does the fitness class at one point on the ice. And he does it in jeans, and there's about 3.5 seconds of it where he just sticks his hands up like real high, and that's all you get for it. And in a world where like exercise programs are trying to be more accessible, easier to jump in and out of, he's creating one of the hardest exercise programs you could have to get into. You need skates. You need to be in a place with an ice rink. You need to know how to skate. You need a lot of stuff to participate in it. You need a lot of time. Like, getting skates on, you know how long it takes to get in and out of skates?
I unfortunately do. Longer for me than most people, but yes.
It's a fitness program that really alienates a lot of people who are looking to get into fitness. Erin, you were a skater. It's easy. She's giving me looks like I don't know what I'm talking about.
You're saying that all exercise classes must be accessible.
No, they are becoming more accessible. Like, you can get them you can do it on your phone now.
Okay, but I can't run on the treadmill on my phone.
No, but you could fire up a cardio program right now.
Yo, guys, Doug's here. Like, can we take this off air?
No,
you too?
This is very important. So I just feel like it's a bold move to create a program with such a high bar to get into, and it's just
be careful. Your mic's unmuted.
Also, this was a good reminder to go ahead and really hide those fake deeds I have laying around. Just put them in a good, safe place.
That's exactly right. You got to be careful where you leave your fake deeds. Yeah. That's the moral of this story. Doug Jones, any Wait What's?
Oh, gosh. Indulge me in a few, please. You mentioned coffee cups earlier. And this pet peeve that I have 2 pet peeves that I love and I kind of enjoy watching. I hope they never fix them. Empty coffee cups is, I understand that when you are holding a warm brown drink and you spill it on a costume, that requires a big long reset. They don't have time for that. So I think it was the opening scene where Laura and her sassy office mate are walking down the street talking with these ornate, overly decorated coffee cups with like decorated sticks and baubles coming out of the mouth hole. Neither one of them took a sip because you couldn't, and they were gesturing with them as though they had a feather in their hand, just like sideways. If you had liquid in there, you carry it a certain way with a certain weight and a certain carefulness to keep the level of the liquid. I'm just saying. So that was gorgeous. And also later in the movie, the Mark character is saying 3 hot chocolates on the concession stand counter, and he sets these 3 empty cups down. You can see, and they had a clack to them on the wood that was like, that is an empty cup. And they kind of, one of them went sideways a little bit, and then this little girl takes 2 of them and runs off,
sloshing them all over the place,
with their arms going like this. Yeah, no, I mean, chocolate would have been everywhere. So there's that. The other one is whenever there is a crowd scene, the whole town's coming out to see the lighting of the Christmas tree at the ice rink, and there were 12 extras. Now, I can't get mad about this because I understand the budget of these movies, and paying extras is an expense. I get it, and I love it when everyone's coming. It's a huge event, and you see 3 faces going
right.
So that.
To that point, Doug, he does make this declaration that it is the heartbeat of the town, and it's where everyone goes to Christmas.
Everything
all
happens.
10 of them. I was on board with saving the Ice Palace, and until I saw that it's only 10 people that care, and I'm like, well, maybe it's not worth saving at this point.
No. Well, seeing 12 extras was my heartbeat. Okay, but I also here's a moment that I had to wait about, and I had to rewatch it a couple times and got a good giggle out of me. When the ice competition is happening, and little Zoe is going to be competing, Laura is attending, sort of like to support Zoe after coaching her. She does her little talks and uncomfortable awkwardness with Mark, and then she gets into the stands and takes a seat. When she sits down, there's an extra sitting next to her, an older woman with her hair kind of permed up, who looks over at Zoe and pats her on the leg. And Zoe and Laura looks back and kind of smiles at her. And I'm like, what? Who was that? Why was she so familiar? Where did she come from? And didn't have one line to explain herself. It was just a visual moment that I was like, wait,
am I supposed to know who that is?
So, loved it. And also another wait, what, this is my last one.
You're
I
fine.
promise. Actually there's more, but I had to hone it down to 4. Mark had a line. Can you help me bake cookies? Right? Can you help me make some cookies? And they have a little tete-a-tete back and forth, little smarmy talk and little flirtatious talk. And she was like, I thought that, you were the guru in the kitchen. He says, well, I haven't tried actually baking since I set fire to our attic trying to make a cake for Zoe's 10th birthday. Does anyone hear anything funny in that line? He set fire to the attic.
What's he doing up there?
Yeah,
Is the kitchen in the attic up a ladder and to the left? Well, that makes zero sense to me. How just the attic caught fire from baking a cake. Anyway.
That's it says more about his baking than anything else. That's for sure. I have a couple as well. One, I just want to take a poll if anybody else thought this. Please. You know how sometimes a couple of people do the thing where they call each other by the first and last name, and it's like a cute little thing they do, like, hey, you Brian Harold, and you're like, oh, you Brandon Gray, and it's a funny thing. When he is saying goodnight to her, he says, good night, Lori Marshall, and she says, good night. And then walks off. Did she forget his full name? It was just like, good night, you buckaroo. It was the pause afterwards that got me. Good night.
Click, and then she
onward
walked
and upward.
Those steps,
Yeah.
the footsteps.
Oh, that made me laugh. And lastly, this is by far the most unnecessary 1 year later I've ever seen. I thought the movie was done. It says 1 year later, and I'm like, what? In like the smallest font. And it cuts. They're watching her ice skates. and they kiss, and that's that's it. So it's a 1 year later to just prove that they're still together. But like, we don't get that for every movie. We just assume they are still together. So it's like 1 year later, oh, they're still kissing. That's it. Yay.
Yeah, we're all very happy.
one of the most unnecessary 1 year laters I've seen. It's time for What the Hallmark is, where we wonder what could have been, maybe have him give some clarity to any questions that we still have. Brian, do you have any lasting questions from this movie?
Yeah, something that I was like wondering about was, it feels like cities give arenas tax credits and money all the time, like for renovations, for upkeep, for coming to that city. And was that even explored? Like he said it's the oldest arena in the Midwest, the oldest ice rink. And so it feels like prime for some type of credit or like infusion of cash to keep it there. Like it's almost like a historical site at that point. You got to keep it there. It's a sense of pride, at least. So
someone comes in with a fake deed, there's nothing you can do.
I guess so. Like,
Hands
did
are
they
tied.
even try to get some money from the city?
No.
Like get a sponsor for it, maybe. Anything else other than like having a bake sale to make money to.
Yeah. Doug, are you any questions you still got?
Yeah, a couple. I guess I was very confused about the business setup, like Brian just said. But the lease issue was kind of confusing to me as well, because especially a couple of the lines of dialogue actually indicated that the expiration date wasn't definite, because the bad guy, Chad, the evil developer, said at one point, if you lose the lease, blah blah blah. Well, if I thought that 12 midnight was a definite, and then the mayor lady even says, well, if the lease expires, blah blah blah. What are these ifs? And was there a way that it wouldn't expire?
I think if he comes up with the money, he can renew it. I think like he gets the first possible renewal.
Is that it?
I think,
okay. Well,
maybe.
that's good. Well, then, okay, then, and I did love how everything turned out. Everything was explained in the last 60 seconds of this movie. It all came together. But the other thing was the business setup of Laura's Laura, her employer. She worked for Loop Line Media, and I wasn't sure what Loop Line Media was. I thought at first it was a TV station, because they were, with the cameras, and I thought, why is a Chicago TV station doing a story in a small town in Michigan, which wasn't close exactly? So do they broadcast there? Well, okay, Loop Line Media, then I see it's an on the line kind of a thing. How big was their viewership? How was it a world? Because .coms don't always have the budget to send a reporter off to another town to live and work there for, what was that? She was there like a week and a half. I don't know. Hotels, dinners. I mean, that was a big budget for a .com story. And again, 13 minutes. Every time I'm interviewed on a TV show, it is like you have it 90 seconds. Yeah. And right. So a 13-minute story. But I can't imagine the budget for this, and where did it come from? So I was left with kind of scratching my head over what Loop Line Media was.
Yeah, the best I could figure is they produce like a 60 minutes type thing with like multiple stories, segments, but one of those stories being a 13-minute, a tight 13 on the ice skating rink that only one specific town knows about, is an interesting move. But good for Loop Line. I mean, they're clearly they know.
Well,
what
she
they're
did
doing.
want it juicy, so maybe she knew like we can't just do this basic stuff.
We got to go to the big juice, and we all know that's ice skating rinks. That's where you get the real gossip. The real buzz.
The buzz.
Right, and was a small town. I was thinking, was a small town ice rink a big enough story to warrant all of that worldwide? I don't on the World Wide Web.
It's a World Wide Web. I don't know.
What everybody's trying to get cozy
That's
again.
What the W's stand for.
Mine is I have a question. Really, I just want to know who this person is. There is a judge at the ice skating event who has the most luscious locks I've ever seen. This guy looks like, I don't know, it looks like I made him up. Like he's just so fun. And he's just a judge. But boy, howdy, did he take my breath away. I just had more questions. Just looking at him, I'm like, how did you become an extra?
They had to know there would be questions about him.
You don't put somebody up, you don't put an extra like that that is so captivating. Those locks were fabulous. Locks. So shout out to that guy, and I just want to know literally everything about you. That's really it. Those are my questions. Well, before we go, Doug, I don't know if you've been listening this season, but we end each episode with something we're calling a fighting chance with Vic Webster. Actor Vic Webster, who is known from his Hallmark movies. He also fights. He does some jiu-jitsu and whatnot. And he has been closing out each episode by letting us know if there were any fights in the movie that we missed, any fits fights, any action sequences. Doug, I don't think you're going to be able to hear this on your end just because of the setup, but it's time for a fighting chance with Vic Webster.
Fighting chance with Vic Webster. A fighting chance with Vic Webster. Was the fighting in the movie? Did someone get hurt? It's a fighting chance with Vic Webster. A fighting chance with Vic Webster. A fighting chance with Vic Webster. Vic Webster.
The only action this movie had was when I got up to get more eggnog and I stubbed my toe.
Oh.
A fighting chance with Vic Webster. Vic Webster.
I hate when that happens.
Vic's an eggnog fan, huh?
He's an eggnog fan. Now we know.
Good to know.
Dougie, do you like eggnog? He's frozen. He was so excited. Frozen. Well, good time because we're done. Until next year, Doug, may we be the first to wish you a Merry Christmas.
Deck the Hallmark's a Bramble Jam podcast. It's produced by Aaron Shea. What? For more information on Deck the Hallmark, you can go to deckthehallmark.com. For more information on the Deck the Hallmark family, you can go to bramblejamplus.com. Deck the Hallmark is presented by Philo TV. For a free trial of Philo, go to philo.tv/DTH.